I'm at the Historical Association in Coronado. And a bulk of it is about the Japanese who lived here and who suffered greatly at the hands of people who thought they were traitors, even though they were the more respected and most conservative of all peoples. The Japanese contributed greatly to America. When it came to the war, they were shoved onto trains and shipped out of town to camps, their property confiscated. It was only until a few years ago that they got reparations, and the stories here are just really sad, to be quite honest with you, but what a bunch of survivors they were. They played like us, baseball, and they spoke American and acted American, and they just happened to have different colored skin, but they had like confiscation acts and documents, and like, look at this one, confiscation document. And then to all Japanese living in here, you're leaving, and all this heavy stuff. Just really must have been one horrific experience for these people. But as I say, they were all American. They didn't speak Japanese. They were Boy Scouts. They were baseball players. They were high school graduates. It's like they were part of the community. And by God, when the war came, they were excommunicated, in the very least excommunicated. But they survived, and they are now one of the most productive, conservative, and responsible citizens of this United States. And by the way, they always were. But there was a terrible stigma during the war, and the radical Japanese government did a lot of bad things, and anyone who was remotely Japanese was, in the very least, excoriated, excommunicated, and a lot of violence occurred around it. The property was confiscated. It was a very sad period in American history. But wonderfully, Coronado has restored the Japanese tea garden story here, and it's like wonderful to see what it was and how it was. And if you've ever been to a Japanese tea garden, you know it is absolutely magnificent. It just, the tea ritual alone was marvelous. But look at the kimonos they had. That was back then. Look at them. They're just fabulous. Everything about the Japanese was refined. Fine silks, fine everything. It's a wonderful, wonderful, artistic. Anyway, so I love to come here and look. And today I'm here to get the old scrolls of the newspapers that the way we used to read the newspaper if we came to the Coronado Journal. Look at that little bit. They'd let you look at each edition from when it started, and they were on, scrolls like the library. You could just watch it. And there's our director, young lady. How are you, young lady?
Good, how are you?
I just had the most wonderful feeling when I went back in there to the culture that the Japanese and the commitment and the contribution they made to this community back in the day was phenomenal. How they were badly treated and sent away, but they recuperated, and they're now one of the more responsible communities in the country. And they excelled at everything, baseball and everything else. They weren't even Japanese in the end. They were just Japanese descendants. They were Americans. And but there was a big panic going on, and there were all kinds of confiscation issues. Anyway, we're lucky to have had the experience. And I was just looking at the gowns and the kimonos and stuff. It was the most artistic race of people, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And there you have it. So I'm up in the archives of the Historical Society, and this is the way we would come and look at the way the newspapers were. Now, I asked this young lady to find a specific newspaper, and there it is. Prince Charles came to visit, and guess what? There's yours truly there greeting him. In fact, I played the violin for him, standing next to Bob Duray on my left, the Prince Charles looking at the camera, and the security guard standing there. And while we were standing there talking, the his own personal security came running across the field through the fence, and he whispered something to him, and he was whisked away. And we didn't find out until the next morning, at that very moment that he had just gotten out of the water from surfing, that his sister, Princess Anne, had been attacked, or a gunman had jumped into the car and tried to kidnap her. And so he was whisked away. They didn't know it had any implications to all the royal family, so that all the royal family around the world were gathered up and sequestered immediately. So this is wonderful to be able to come back. This was in 1969, was it, or something?
74.
Oh, 74, so I had a few years off. But anyway, what a treat to see the old newspaper the way it was. This is when it was pretty much a good newspaper for a little tiny town. It had a bit of everything in. Can't say the same about the new one, but there we have it. So a treat for me, young Vicky Stone. You can't see her beautiful face because she's behind the mask mandate. She printed this out for me, so I'm going to have this for a lovely souvenir. I'm going to do a full front page story in my Coronado Clarion, our magazine. But look at that, a bit of history. I was involved myself, and there you have it. Gosh, now these are so delicate that you don't want everybody grabbing them and looking at them, but on request you could get them, I guess. You could.
Yep, for special research appointments, if you schedule an appointment with me, we can pull them if needed. But we mostly direct people to use the online resource, because that way you can search for whatever you're looking for. It's a lot easier than going through the old papers, but we always have the analog versions in our archives to last
you
forever.
could go down to the library and look at the fish. They have it on microfilm down there.
Yes, and actually the Coronado Public Library were the people who sent all of the newspapers to go be digitized and scanned to be searchable online.
Wow, that was wonderful. Yeah, there's a lot of history in Coronado, and it's like Thomas Edison came here and deliberately, what shall I say, supervised the installation of the electricity at the Hotel Del. We've got some history here. Plus all the movie stars came here. Charlie Chaplin bought a little house. Mary Pickford has one by the golf course. They're still here, by the way. And we have a lot of great history, but I'm so thrilled that we have this, because I thought it was just like a fluff, you know, for tourists to come in, but you've got everything. You've kept everything, huh?
Yeah, our organization celebrated 50 years back in 2019, and so we've been collecting Coronado history since the very beginning.
Fabulous.
Yeah, so lots available in our archives.
That's great. We're going to have to do a musical about this. Or something on ice, you know, because it's so cool. All right, young lady, this is Vicky Stone. She's the curator, and I'm happy to say she is very knowledgeable. I've been in here before in the past where people go, oh, but she knows exactly what she's talking about, and she knows what a jewel this is for us in our community, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Vicky Stone.